Thank you, Wapplers from around the world. Join us in our May 2024 meetup. This is meetup number 25 as we enter our third year. And I would like to give a special shout out to a few folks and say thank you because the meetups would not be possible without them. I think Ben Plaisir from Australia, John Stanton from the UK, Brian English from the UK, and of course, Theodore, Patrick, and I want to thank George for the opportunity to host these meetups. We are having the Wappler meetups at the second Friday of every month. And you can keep tabs on, find links in the community forum. I'd like to point out that John Stanton from the UK is going to be presenting today. John is a third-time presenter. He's presented once each and every year. And he was, in fact, our first presenter. He decided to do a CRUD demonstration live without a net at our first Wappler meetup, and that was one of the most popular YouTube views ever. And I want everybody to save the date for Friday, June 14th for Rock and Roll Bob Ice from Lake of the Ozarks is going to be doing a presentation on APIs. On Friday, July 12th, Keith, formerly from, I want to get out of here, Georgia, to move to Arizona in the U.S., is going to demonstrate a site that he built totally in Wappler. And on Friday, August 9th, I'm going to butcher your name. It's Shalalaba, is going to be presenting his site, also built totally in Wappler. So we've got a fabulous lineup for everybody, and I hope you stay tuned to our channels. Without further, I'm Mark One in the forum. If you would like to present or give back to this community, show off a favorite tip or trick about Wappler, or demonstrate a site built in Wappler, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to discuss how we can get it into a meetup. Even if English is an issue, we can find ways around that and make it happen. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. John Stanton from the UK. Give John a round of applause. Everybody's got their microphone on. All right.
Oh, hello. Thanks, Mark. Okay. Mark, yeah, as you know, we all know each other. What after Mark sort of asked what we could do to kick off year three, I spent quite a while trying to think of something that might be both fresh and new to people, but also really helpful. And I had a chat with Brian about it as well, and he came up with a good idea. Well, in fact, it was the day that the form data element was added, which probably a month, 6 weeks ago, something like that. And basically what it does is let you really easily, staggeringly easily, transfer all your data from the client side to the server side. So a good example is what I'm going to demonstrate, which is a shopping cart. So what I've done, let me share my screen. I'll attempt to share my screen. Okay, can you all see Wappler? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me switch to, can you see the page there?
Yes. Cart ID product.
Excellent. Okay, so let's go back. What we've got, I'll do a really quick walkthrough of the structure of the page so you know what's there. Basically, we've got it's a Node.js project. I'm using a SQLite database. So basically everything is just wrapped up in files. So nice and quick and easy. This took about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to build completely from scratch. So a fully working shopping cart. So I've put in, I'll show you the front end. I've put in 3 products. And when you click on a product, I'm using the off canvas. It's a Bootstrap 5 project. So there's an off canvas that just shows you the product, and then a simple select to pick how many you want to add to the cart. I've just put 5 in there. So if we put 2 in the cart, we click that, we get a nice notification at the top right saying product added, and our cart is now showing there are 2 items in it. And if we click on that, there's another off canvas that shows us our cart. And then I thought I got carried away a little bit, put in a few fancy bits so we can change the quantity just by clicking on the plus and minus. If you get down to 1, the minus disappears. But of course you can click on the trash and it goes. And then if we pick something else, add that back to our cart. And as we click the plus and minus, you'll see the totals all dynamically update live. So there's no lag or anything. And this is all using data store. So it's local storage. And the bit that I want to demonstrate, which is the new form data element, is how we get the details from the cart into our server action on the server. So here we have our off canvas element. Let me move this onto a smaller screen, which makes it hopefully clearer for Zoom. Let me delete this. It's from earlier. Right. So we've got our data store, and if we look at the schema for that, it's very straightforward. An ID, the ID of the product name, quantity, price, and a line total, and that's it. And then whenever you click on an item, so for instance, if we click on the shopping cart icon, we've got our add to cart event, which is a very simple data store insert, and we're just putting in our details from the loop. So our loop here is, sorry, here's our expression, which is our Server Connect products table. So it's all standard stuff that I'm sure everybody's doing blindfold now. But the crucial bit is when we click on the checkout, we have our form, which contains our customer name and customer email address. That is obviously sent to the server. And the bit we're going to add is a form, the new form data. And if you've not looked at this before, you'll be amazed at just how simple it is. Basically, I'll leave it as input data 1, that's fine. We just click on the lightning for data and we say data store data. Select. That is it. And what that's going to do is send a loop of JSON of all our cart data across to the Server Connect, which can then add it to the database. So if I go to our Server Connect, here we've got, again, the crucial bit here is if we go into our input, we link it to our page and we select the form within the page. And if we then do import from, all our fields tell you what, I'm going to be bold here, and I'll just remove that one. So if we do import from, you'll see instantly our input data is there, and there are our 5 fields from our data store. And the very first one is the line number starting at 0. So we can reference it that way if we want to. And Wappler has done all that for us. So then all I've needed to do is put in a repeat. Our repeat goes through the input data 1, which is this here. And as we loop through it, we are inserting into our order details table the data from our loop: ID, product, price, quantity. Now, some of you are probably shouting at the screen and saying, you don't put your price in from the data store because that can be manipulated by the visitor. Absolutely true. That's a kind of more in-depth thing. So I just want to flag up that what you really want to be doing is sending from the data store the product ID, which we've got, but instead of getting our price from the data store, we should really do a server connect, get the price from the database and populate the order from that so that no one can manipulate the pricing. But that's not what I wanted to demonstrate here, but I'm just mentioning it so you know. And that basically is it. I'll see if I can, I'm using Safari here, so, oh yeah, I can. So if I click on storage, local storage, here's our data store, there's our record, and as I change it here, if I add another item here, you'll see our data store is changing accordingly. So we've now got a t-shirt and our mug, all that's there. And then when we click checkout, that, and an email. That has gone across, and I didn't get this ready, but give us a sec. Oh, actually, I'll do it in here. I'll quickly show you the database, order details, view edit data. There's our Wappler t-shirt, 6 of them, and our Wappler mug, 3 of them in there. And that basically is it. So really what I wanted to focus on was the form data element. So you saw a couple of clicks, all our data from the data store in one go, sent in looped proper JSON to the server connect, and then we can do a repeat on the server connect to put it in the database. Previously, we had to do it a field at a time, and it was really laborious. But form data has just massively sped up the process, and that's a classic example of why I feel Wappler is such a good tool, because it just speeds up something that could have taken a long time in just a few clicks. So there you go. How was that?
Well, as always, John, that was awesome. The building a shopping cart, you probably did it over a lunch hour.
I did it one evening in front of the telly on the laptop.
So without lunch hour, it would have been probably about 45 minutes. Uh, but that's an excellent presentation of a really powerful tool, simple to use. I'd like to open up the floor for questions for John. He is a Wappler expert. We'll start with his presentation, then we can move on to other items if you like. John, what was the main reason you chose that form data element?
John, great job on that. Where in your example are you storing the username, the customer name, and the email that you had up there on the checkout? I didn't see that portion being saved anywhere.
I don't think I am saving it, to be honest. I mean, obviously, I would be.
I'm not criticizing then why even have a customer name and an email on there.
I think initially I just thought make it more like a proper checkout. And then I should do.
Okay.
I mean, I could if we wanted to. It'd probably take 5 minutes to put
Right. So basically, you have it in the form itself, but you haven't made it on the server side.
Correct.
A table, if you would, to hold the customer data. Okay.
Yeah, the data is sent across to the server side. The server side is just doing nothing with it.
All right.
So, what types of items would you include in the form data, and which types of items for security purposes you wouldn't include?
I would include the ID of the customer, their details if they're not already a customer, because obviously you need to process that. But as far as the products go, I would just send you can send as much as you like, but I would only use the product ID, and I would then do a server connect to get, sorry, not a server connect, an API to get the, using all the wrong phrases, not the API. I'd use a data source to get the product from the database on the ID. So if there's a £5 product in the database or $5 product in the database, all I want to know is its product ID number 2. The fact that it's $5 I get from my database. I'm not getting it from the front end that's manipulated by the visitor. The key thing to keep in mind is with data store, it's locally stored data, so the browser can do what it likes with that data. So if anybody wants to change anything, they can, and there's nothing you can do to prevent that. So what you do is the bits that they can change, you've just got to know they can change it. So if they change the ID of a product, they're going to end up buying a different product. So it's not in their interest to change it. And if they do, it's tough luck. But what you don't want is them picking a $2,000 product and changing it to $5 and saving a small fortune.
Excellent. So
anything that's in the database already, use it from the database. Don't use it from the data store front end. The front end is for the stuff that's not in your database. So, who the customer is, what they've ordered.
If they can change the ID number on that, then how does that suffice when you're trying to transfer it over to Server Connect using the ID of the product in your database?
If they can change the ID of the product, then that's exactly the same scenario as if they take something out of their cart and put something else in their cart. So there's no benefit to them doing it, and there's no risk to me with them doing it. It's just the same as them removing one item and putting in a different item.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't follow. If you have the ID itself of the product that they're using, that they're buying, and you transfer it over to the Server Connect side, and you're using the ID number for that product out of your database, how does that separate from the ID they've changed?
Let's say your product ID is 5. So product number 5, they've put in the cart and they send it over to Server Connect. Server Connect then does a data query to get record number 5. if they change in their shopping cart and they say, I don't want product number 5 now, I want product number 6. So they remove 5 from the cart and put 6 in the cart, and now they're ordering item 6. Or if they manipulate the data store and change ID 5 to ID 6, they are going to get product 6. So manipulating the data store is exactly the same as changing the content of the cart. So there's no security implications. All you want to know is what item they've got in the cart that they want to buy and how many of them they want to buy. Does that make sense? Does that clear it?
I'm sorry, maybe it's just too early for me. I'm looking at, hey, if I change the ID number on the front end, the customer changes the ID, how is that marrying to the ID of the product in the database? If you changed it, then it's a different ID number.
If they change it to an ID that doesn't exist in the database, then when you do the lookup on the server side, you're not going to find a product, so you throw an error.
But if the ID number is actually in the database, they got lucky and picked one, does that change it completely?
No, all it will do is it will just change their cart contents. So if you, let me see what will happen.
That's where I'm losing. I understand you're changing the cart content, but if you're saving this thing over there, it's using that ID number, whatever they've changed it to. They guessed that, hey, here's one and it's the right one. And when you change it and save it over, it's the wrong ID number for the product coming out of your database.
No, because the product details you're getting from the database. So if they change the ID number, let me see if I don't know whether
John, could I ask a question or actually a statement? But I'll say the same thing you said, but use a product instead. So you're going to buy the user chooses to buy a shirt and changes the item number and winds up buying buy a shirt for $25, and he changes the item number to a car, and that's $25,000. It's going to be returned to the shopping cart as a car instead of a shirt for $25,000, and then they have a choice if they want to order that or not.
Yeah. What you would do is at the payment stage, get back the data from the server, so they know they're now paying a different price. I'll just, hopefully this will help. Give me a second. I'm just going to share my screen again. I've got here a t-shirt and a mug. So if I now change the ID of the t-shirt from 3 to 1 and now refresh my screen, it hasn't done it. Why hasn't it done it? ID. I did it before I was sharing my screen and it worked. But am I changing the ID? Okay, forget that.
What's the difference between the dollar ID and the regular ID? I forgot.
The dollar ID is literally the order of the rows. So okay. the first line is always 0, second line is 1. So it means you can just say, I want to reference the first item in the cart, regardless of what ID it is.
Okay.
Good question and answer.
So, yeah, what you would do is you would send from the cart to the server the ID of the product, and the server would send back, this is what you're ordering. And if they've manipulated the cart, they're going to get a different product come back at a different price. So there's no.
Can I?
Yes, please go ahead.
We know the data store is a manipulated thing. Okay, we know that, and we always take care of it, everything in server side. Do you hear me? Okay. So
Yes.
don't just show us an easy tool to manipulate this data and send them to the server. Okay, then we do whatever we want. We check if the ID exists because they can do the product ID A, B, or number 5 million something. We do any how do we say that?
Mm.
We search and we know, and then on the as John said, on the next step, the payment, we get the form, we return the data, and we get them from the form data the final. Do you agree with this? You had 6, you manipulated, man. That's not what I did. You did it. These are the products. You agree or not? They cannot be manipulated. They return from the form data. Am I correct? That's it.
Yes.
Spot on. Yep. You anything like this, you do it all server side. The beauty of data store on the client side is you're just making the management of the shopping cart really slick and easy.
Yes.
And the new form data component lets us get whatever we want from the data store across to the server, so we can then do everything from there on. And it's that one click, pretty much a one click way of getting all the data from client side to server side in one go, and all visually. So it just works brilliantly.
Well, that's awesome. I'm going to ask the folks in the meetup here if you would be kind enough to type the country you're in the chat, so we can kind of get a feel for who's attending from where, if you would be so kind. And if nobody else, does anybody else have any questions for John? So I'd like to go into a open discussion of Wappler, and I'd love to hear your favorite tools or your favorite feature of Wappler, and feel free to start. Let's open up a conversation. Everybody's shy. But let me ask the also we've got the good response in the chat. If you could give us an idea of how long you've been using Wappler, or what version of Wappler you started with. We get an idea of the experience in the chat room here.
Similar to you, Bob.
Yeah, I've been around forever.
Yeah.
Because I initially got involved because all I wanted to do was just upload pictures. And I bought the extensions to upload images to websites, and then and then have been doing it ever since. I mean, a basic thing, and then now here I am, like, I'm full-fledged developer, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Are they still maintaining the DMX tools?
The
Dreamweaver plugins.
I don't know if those are. I mean, they're all still there, so I don't know if.
I see.
What did you ask them?
Now and again.
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
The DMX zone tools for Dreamweaver.
Right.
That's a lot of us came from there. We were using Dreamweaver, and then Dreamweaver got rid of the server side stuff, and then DMX Zone took over the database,
Right.
Insert, delete, update, that kind of stuff. And so we a lot of us came from using that into Wappler.
Right. The only downside for me, as you guys have heard me many times, is we've lost the PayPal shopping cart.
Yeah, right. I've got a site that I'm currently redoing that had the PayPal thing on it, and they were trying to upgrade and go to a new version of that for them.
I'm not a fan of PayPal, but you can't get away from the fact that it's still probably the most popular payment processor worldwide.
Yeah.
Very much so. You know.
I used to love the PayPal IPN. Just was so easy.
God, was it ever? I loved it.
With your experience with PayPal users, the actual customers buying with PayPal, do they what percentage of them actually pay with some form of credit, like a credit card or an ACH transfer, versus how many use PayPal cash to pay?
Mine are flat out all credit card using PayPal that I'm sending out. And the reason being is that I can understand there's differences between us all, but I have yet, until Wappler itself made me aware of a program called Stripe, I'd never heard of it. Never one of my clients here have heard of it. I've asked just for the heck of it, nobody has heard of Stripe.
No kidding.
I kid you not. That's what drove me nuts with this thing was, man, why are we all going to Stripe? Why do we go back to the PayPal? And then I understand it's more of a European thing to me, that's where it's just coming out from. But I now know that Stripe exists, but I had never heard of it. And to this day, I can call up clients right now. You ever heard of this? Nope, never heard of it. And there was many a client that I had that refused to use it because they had never heard of it. I wanted to have PayPal.
Here in the UK, Stripe has massively overtaken PayPal and
Right.
is much better charges as well.
Right. I understand that, but over here, that doesn't exist in that capacity.
Yeah,
It's a part
that
of
would explain why they went the Stripe route. Stripe has a better
Right.
API integration as well, more features, but takes a bit more getting used to.
right. So here in the USA, we pretty much suffer from that dramatic change.
Well, what's the difference in the payment fees between Stripe and PayPal?
I don't see one.
I don't know PayPal's currently. PayPal used to be 3.4% and Stripe was about 1.4. So we're talking like over double. But I've got a feeling PayPal has now been forced to
Mhm.
more in line.
The only problem we ever had over here dealing with anything at all like that is that somebody used American Express because the fee on that was so much higher.
That's always going to be the case.
I think the last time I checked, Stripe had better numbers. It was pretty close, but it from a seller standpoint, that's can take a huge chunk out of the sales price. So the lower percentages might be a reason for people to jump on board. So, all right. So we have this is our 25th meetup, and we're just our first meetup of year 3. And I want to thank everybody again for joining us. Is there, while we have some Wapplers together, is there any other topics of conversation that you'd like to cover? All right.
But I will take John Jenke once again for that demonstration, sir.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure.
good.
I hope it was helpful.
Absolutely.
Actually, it was. I had no idea that existed.
Neither did I.
So that's
everything that I'm having to deal with Stripe right now, which to me is a learning curve. I'm sorry, it just is. When I saw your notification came out for this meeting, and I saw about that, what the heck are you talking about? I didn't know that existed. And then I went and looked it up, and I saw that one excerpt that Theodore put in there explaining about the form data. I said, "How did this get past me? Where in the updates was this at?" And I never found it.
It snuck out in one of them minor-ish updates, one of the weekly updates. And yeah, Brian drew my attention to it. And immediately I just thought, that's perfect. That's going to save so much time. And then I didn't actually use it until last week, putting this cart together. After deciding that was what I was going to demo, I thought, right, I better try it. And amazed myself that it was so quick and easy, and it just did exactly what you'd expect it to do and wanted
Right.
to do.
The only down thing that I'm looking at is in me going through the tutorials and everything with Stripe on using the model for the shopping cart. It is not encompassed in a form. It's just in tables.
Say that again.
I'm gonna look this thing up before I say that any further. Hold on one sec.
Take your time.
Do you mean
Yeah,
the
okay. On the studios, when you go to the actual Stripe workup in order how to make this thing, and it's only suggested it gives you, of course, you can use a static page or whatnot, or dynamic page rather. But I use the model that it explains. The model is only table based. It is not a form.
table based, not a?
A form. It's nothing's built in the form. When you submit your checkout directly to Stripe out of the model shopping cart, there's no form. The table holds all the data and everything. You've got it plugged in there, but there is no form to where you can pass this data over.
Can't you put a form in a modal?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. No, going, okay, I got to work around that thing in order to transfer this thing on over. And of course, my first thing is I hope to God that does work, because if not, that doesn't suffice for me.
Shouldn't all that data be in the data store and you're just pushing that data over?
Right, but how do you push it on over if there's no form involved? There's nothing to call for the elements itself. Like in that case, like I asked about the customer name, the fields, customer name, and the email. There is no form holding the data. It's all in the table.
There is a form, because when you go into the form, if you do convert to, you change it to a Stripe checkout form.
Nope.
Let me
Nope, on my page itself. I mean, I'd be glad to show you this thing. I'll show you this thing. It's all table. There is no form.
I'll tell you what, give me a sec. I'll let me share again. So here's my checkout form, and then if I
Right.
go to here, convert to,
Right, because you're using a different one. And go ahead, try it.
no, I've just created a very simple form,
Right.
just got a
And-
couple of fields in it. And if I now change that to a Stripe checkout form and add so that's now a Stripe checkout form. I would select the action, which I've already got as checkout. And then the only other thing I would need to do is add on here the Stripe element. There we go. And then I put my Stripe API key in there. This is where you choose whether you're sending it directly from the form to Stripe or whether you're doing it server side.
Right. Yeah, I got all that, but I have no availability of adding anything to a form. When you build this thing
You
out of a
just-
model, it's table, period.
You've got to put the form on the page.
No, yeah, you have to, but and what I'm telling you is
not
that in the Wappler itself, and the instructions that T-Door came up and then put it, it's all based upon a model. And in the model, all the data store is held from in a table. There is no form. You hit the Stripe, yes, and it kicks everything directly over to Stripe, but there's no form.
I'll have a
So
look
that's
at
why I'm at a loss going, where are you coming up with this? So you just built everything standalone versus I'm going, what he explained to me, this has nothing to do with that. It's everything on a model. And that's where I'm at a loss going, bummer. I'm still at the same square one again.
Maybe if you could post that, what you're talking about, so we could like look at it. Or we can look at it after and comment after we all get offline here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't want to drag that thing out, but obviously, the curiosity on my side going, where is that?
Right.
That's a great idea, Bob.
Well, I'm building the shopping cart here on a new site it's not it's some other processor company that I'm gonna have to deal with. So I'm gonna have to basically write any of that kind of stuff from scratch and not be able to use any of the Stripe stuff. So I'm looking forward to that.
what you want is a Wappler meetup talking all about APIs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
really. Well, isn't that coming in next?
Yep. 14th.
Yep, that's the excellent. Yeah. I was all pumped up about this one. Bummer. Let's see what happens on the API side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, what happens here is I'm looking at this. In order for me to utilize some of this, I can't just slap a form in there for it to work when it's the button's not attached to that matters. I have to rewrite this thing like you did. John, just build it yourself versus using the model that was given to me.
You got to do that sometimes.
Yep, as you find out down the road, yeah.
But the API functionality does take a lot of the hard work out.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
next month is going to be super helpful.
Absolutely. We're going to find out next month. Well, I want to thank everybody again for joining us. I'd like to invite many other Wapplers who would like to present or share their favorite tip or trick to reach out to Mark One in the forum. I want to thank George for letting me use the Wappler corporate jet over the weekend. And I wish everybody a very safe and prosperous month until we meet again.
All right,
Thank you all.
sounds good.
Have a great day. Stay
You
safe.
guys take care. And happy Mother's Day, you all.
Yep, later.
Nice touch. Happy Mother's Day.
Goodbye.